So what's the difference between toxic masculinity and masculinity? And are they to be discarded? First of all, the only difference is whether or not that person themselves, whether it's a male or a female, is toxic or egotistical. Because the masculine energy itself and the feminine have nothing to do with the gender whatsoever. In both female and male, you're supposed to balance both.
Like Bruce Lee.
Right? Because the masculine is just this more so aggressive, kind of thinking from a place of logic, dipping more into passion, just more so aggressive, right? Not so much submissive. And the feminine is more so a compassionate energy, this place of thinking from the heart, right? You're not so much aggressive, you're more submissive, right? And if you can balance both, you can remain in a place of compassion, but also be firm within yourself.
Buddha. Spiritual tools.
Right? So the masculine and the feminine energy to begin with have nothing to do whatsoever with gender. You can also be toxic feminine by being so weak-minded and just submissive and like hurt by everything. And this isn't me saying that from a toxic masculine, that's just being masculine in the sense that, hey, I'm firm and that's what that is. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still compassionate. I'm not being rude to you.
There is no spoon.
But you can also be toxic feminine, femininity, or whatever you want to call it. That was weird. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to discard the masculine or the feminine. You just can't be toxic to an extreme in either one of those, right? Sometimes you'll go out to a business world and see a female that expresses these toxic masculinities, right? Like she's got that masculine energy. She's firm and she can be aggressive and think from a place of logic, but just almost too much, right? Like you can tell, like, damn, like she'd probably beat me in arm wrestling type of deal. Not to say strength has to do with that, but you can just tell if someone, even a male, can be too much, not too much, but you can just tell if they're more feminine, right? And it's not to say that they are acting like a female. They're just more so compassionate all the time. And since we identify more feminine with female and masculine with male, when you see a male that's too feminine, you think, wow, he's girly. No, he's nothing to do with gender. It's just that energy. So when we go to like identify as a female and want to start cutting parts of our body off or changing parts of our body, to begin with, it has nothing to do with your gender or your body. If you identify more with the feminine, be that, but just practice bringing that masculine energy to yourself a little bit more too, so you're not just being pushed over all the time or taken advantage of. That's where that masculine comes in. It's just to defend yourself from that selflessness, right? And to be able to be firm, just to be balanced in that. Because when you balance yourself in that, you do find it's not gender related. These aren't qualities of a gender. And to be fair, we all start off as the female chromosome, I believe, or whatever it is, right? It's all female and then it splits off, and whether it's male or female. So from the beginning, it's all just the same one thing and the same one energy, right?
Touched.
Just lesser or more of the same one energy. It's non-dual in that sense. So really, when you're more so in your masculine, it's not that you're separate from the feminine energy. It's just lesser and more of that one energy towards masculine than feminine, I guess you could say. And have that balance in the middle, it makes the energy whole. It's not necessarily lacking one or the other. That's why if you're too far in one of the extremes, whether it's toxic masculinity or toxic femininity or whatever we're going to say that, I can't say that, whatever. Toxic feminine, but that's why you suffer. The extremes of the two, let's just put it this way, you can drink too much water. You can die from drinking too much water. So even something that's good for you, you can have too much of. It's just that in the middle. So it's not, to further my point, it's not that the masculine itself is what's toxic or that it should be discarded. It's just whether or not your ego is there and your personality has become toxic. Because like I mentioned, you can be a toxic feminine about something, right? You can be very weak-minded and sensitive, and really that kind of leaves that place of compassion. And now you're stuck in between being, everyone needs to be feminine, but then you're also yourself in that moment expressing a kind of toxic masculinity by being over aggressive and your opinion of people being more feminine. So, yeah, and trying to be too feminine, you start suffering and become over masculine from observation. Could be wrong. But yeah, but I think that's also, not to make fun of anybody, but also consider deeply that the masculine and the feminine has nothing to do with gender. So if you think, hey, I identify more as a female, it's that you identify more with the feminine energy, and you don't have to change yourself or your body or how you look. You don't have to act like a female because they don't own that energy, just like a male doesn't own the masculine energy. Neither gender owns either of that same one energy, right? Because like I said, it's not necessarily two different energies. It's just the same one energy, and whether you're at the extreme of either end of that, right? Less or more of that end. And this isn't to say that the female end is the lesser and the masculine is more. It's just this life energy that passion and compassion, logic and heart, aggressive, submissive, that's the balancing, the lesser more of the two. When you meet in the middle, they're both are still there. It's just selfless together, right? Because if you go too much into the masculine, it becomes egotistical. And if you go too much into the feminine in a toxic way, that becomes egotistical. The I arises out of both of those. In the middle, when it's balanced, that I can't survive, is what I'm saying. Rant over.